Hello! So, while we're gearing up for season 4 of the very famous Regency Romance, the Bridgerton, I did some homework and I read these. Not all of them. I'm a big fan of Bridgerton, the show. I watched it and re-watched again and again and again. And while we're waiting for season 4, the Benedict story, I was anticipating what's gonna look like, especially with Bridgerton's characters, the heartthrobs. So I started with Benedict's book because I gave a try to Daphne's book a few years back now, and I did not like it. I did not go past page 5 or something. And then this time with Benedict, it worked. So I read this, then I went ahead and I read The Vice Who Loved Me, then I went ahead and read Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, and then I read The Duke and I. So it's a weird order, but it doesn't matter because I've watched the show several times. Oh, my Bridgerton. As a disclaimer, if you're here to learn about Lady Danbury, Queen Charlotte, or Lady Whistledown, this is not the video for it. I am really going to talk about the siblings and the hit or miss between the books and the show, because a lot of people, when they saw that I was reading the books, they reached out asking, does it look like the same as the show? Yes and no. It depends, I would say. It depends on which character you like so much. So if you really like me, like Jonathan Bailey, oh my god, you would be disappointed in the book. I was really disappointed. That was not the book that I expected. I disliked the vibe in this book, and there are so many differences with the show. I love the show. I really love the show. And I love Jonathan Bailey. Oh my, he was voted the sexiest man alive, so there is a reason. So we'll come back to this later. Daphne and the Duke, the book is funny. It's more witty than the show, actually. And then Colin and Penelope, my goodness, I love the couple in the book. Just for the disclaimer, I watched the show with everybody when it was released, and I watched it again with a friend, Two Babies, and I disliked the season 3. I loved the couple. And I think Penelope is one of my favorite characters. Anyways, so between the books and the show, if you're really thinking about the narration and the accent, the British accent and all of that, I think you would be disappointed in the books, because I think we are reading the late 90s, early 2000s romance, the chick lit type of books. It's not really the Jane Austen English, if you know what I mean. Also, I was asked about the differences between the books and the show in terms of scenario and events. Oh my god, the differences are interesting. They borrowed lots of scenes between the sibling stories. For example, one of the scenes that I love so much, the I burn for you. Actually, Benedict said it in the books. It's interesting, right? The Duke, when he said it. So, the garden. Daphne was the one who was seducing the Duke. Can you imagine? Yes, Daphne. She was the one seducing him all the way, actually. It's interesting. What else? So, the horse racing scene. I'm sorry, but it's not Kate. It's one of the best scenes that I loved about the book. Sorry, about the season 2. Them racing in the park and everything. No, actually it was, and falling and all of that drama about it, it was actually Daphne at the end of The Duke and I. She was the one in the park racing, and then she fell, and then that was how they got back together. And then the act of Lady Danbury bringing everybody out of their way, that was Violet, the mother. So that's interesting, right? What else? The Viscount. The Viscount, my goodness. The Viscount and all of the things that a lady could be seduced with. He actually not seduced, he took liberties with Kate in the book. Some liberties, not a lot of liberties. And then what's different is that he did not propose to her sister, right? That's amazing. I'm like, yes, please, please. The character of the sister in the show, I think a lot of people hated, but in the book, I mean, she was a different person. She was in a different planet, living with her books and so on. But no, the bee scene happened, and then Lady Featherton and his mother saw it, and that's how they ended up marrying. And Kate did not want it, but then accepted, and all of that. It's like the bee scene. The bee scene. But still, I don't like Anthony in the books. I think his insecurity, he was very emotional. Yeah, very emotional, and very insecure, and sometimes unkind. Not very much a gentleman, or maybe he was the macho of his time, probably. Like, yeah. In the book, though, he was rather supportive of Daphne not wanting to marry some of the suitors, no, unlike the show. And Lady Denbury praised him for that. Now, for what was it? Yes. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Penelope. Did I say she's my favorite character? Female character? Yes, she is my favorite female. Her wit, her intelligence, defying society, everything about Penelope is amazing. So, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. If we put aside all of the love of that era and everything, and the longing, especially the longing to that Regency era, which is frightening sometimes, I think Shonda Rhimes gave us a version of what if the era was not racist, what if that era was not misogynist. It's like your ancestral dream of being treated equally at the time. It's very important to know that the people of the time they had in the books, they were blue, green eyes, blonde hair, white skin. They were not like the show at all. So that's very important. I know some people criticized the show by saying actually Shonda Rhimes was whitewashing the past, but I think it's more of the ancestral dream, manifestation of that dream. And it also resonates with a lot of us because it shows people like us, right? And then she goes back and does Queen Charlotte season or prequel. Anyways, a show that has Asian, African, black, and brown people. That's amazing, right? We wish that was the time, but England was not like that. So back to Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. I really did not like season 3, but I think this is my favorite book of them all. Oh my, Colin. He was a real gentleman. He was a real human. And it was not only the heartthrob, it was not only the person who's everybody is after. All of the women wanted to marry. At the same time, we have Penelope, who is defying society, her society, who's doing a paid job, who's earning money, being famous with a pen name, published, established author at the time. That's amazing. And then all over the book, she wanted to be an active part of their relationship, even in the intimate relationship. She did not want to do like in the show, you just sit there and let it be. She was an active person in their relationship, a real partner. And then it's her mind and the way she talks and her success and what she accomplished. Everything about it was amazing. She owned herself. She owned her pen. Very intelligent. We see in the book, like in the show, that Lady Denbury really suspected her but admired her. Anyways, this brings me actually, the character of Pen brought back another book actually that I was reading and I was too tired with, too challenging. An essay, A Room of One's Own. It's an essay by Virginia Woolf. And then in this essay, I think she published this in the 1920s. So 100 years after what was supposed to be the Lady Whistledown society papers in 1820s or something like that. So it really shows that this situation or status of women did not really change much slight changes, because during the Bridgerton era, Daphne, for example, says if she went to Oxford, if Oxford accepted women, she would have been a different person, right? Or does math or whatever. 100 years after, and this is really striking, Virginia Woolf is in Cambridge, I believe, and she's in the university and she roams around. She wants to go into the library, and here what happened is she was not admitted. So she says ladies are only admitted to the library if accompanied by a fellow of the college or furnished with a letter of introduction. A lady of her own cannot go into a library, cannot be accepted in certain spaces. And that brings me back to Pen and how she was defying society. We have those two characters in the show where Eloise and Pen, they are like the rebellious characters, the feminist characters, right? But I think the show is not feminist in many ways. It's a little bit, I don't know. It does not really show that women are in the fringe of society like they were at the time. It shows more that women, they were part of the society. You have those ambitious mama trying to find good suitors and husbands for their daughters, or mothers trying to marry or their sons. But then it's still romanticizing the whole thing, right? But women are not part of society at the time. Here in, for example, with Daphne and the Duke, they had an argument. He looked up, his eyes haunted. "You're my wife." She said nothing. "Legally, I own you." Daphne just stared at him as she said, "That's true." And this is actually true. Women were owned at that time, and England was very famous by this concept of wife selling. So if you go on Wikipedia or you Google it, you will find that a lot of women at that time were sold, auctioned publicly in markets. And if you go around London, you would find some of those markets are still active until today. So you would find like a sign saying, here somebody wrote a poem for the wife he tried to auction and she was never took away. So owning women in this era of Bridgerton were objects, property, like slaves, for example, that were inherited or they pass on, and then you can do whatever you want publicly, give your wife away and then take another one. So yes, it bothers me that the show is so good that some young women want to live in the era of the Bridgerton, the Regency era, without knowing that. So yeah, they were not allowed to, of course, not work. All of that category of society did not work. They looked down at some people who were like doctors or journalists or whatever. And then they were not allowed to study. Can you imagine Oxford not having women? Yeah. So it's interesting, really. The books, it's a nice read. I go from one book to the other, and then it brings me to see where women were at the era and where women are now. We miss the romance, of course. Our time is different, that we're not romantic as much as we used to. No letters like Colin and Penelope writing to each other. That's what people are longing to. The way if he sees her or if he touches her, that's the end of it and they have to marry. All of that is nice, but really we have to rethink the hype around the Bridgerton. I mean, the show is amazing. The production is so amazing. The costumes, the music, the mix between classic music and modern day music, hip-hop songs and classic waltz. That's amazing, but that's not it, right? Like, critically thinking about when he says, "Legally, I own you," that hurts. Anyways, the books were like eye-opening in different ways. Now, back to Benedict, An Offer from a Gentleman. Benedict's character is so rich in the show. It reflects the libertine era. At the same time, it's like a bachelor owning it and trying and discovering, and also having the burden of being the second, not the first kid. And so he comes second. His emotions sometimes are dismissed. His family does not really see, in the book, does not see his drawings and how he is so talented. And so it's really a very interesting book. But then you have the mischievous Benedict. When he falls in love with a mysterious woman, he is actually loyal to that mysterious woman that he saw for the Cinderella style. And then he's conflicted when he meets Sophie, who he rescues and becomes a maid. He brings her to be a lady's maid at his mother's house. What's interesting about Benedict is that for some reason, with the character that was performing in the show, I really thought that Benedict would be more daring and defying society, a little bit like Penelope. And even Daphne is very smart and he knew how to do things. So I secretly hoped that he would defy society and just marry her with giving her an indecent proposal. But unfortunately that was not the case. I really disliked that part of Benedict in the book. And you see how she was traumatized and not loved by her own father and like mistreated by her stepmother. And then at the end, she becomes the wife of Mr. Bridgerton. It was a journey for her to hide how she was well educated, how she knew the manners of that society while she was a maid. She promised herself that she would not do the same thing to a child like her mom did for her. I felt at times Sophie was so childish. We will see how it turns out. I have high hopes for this season. Luke is a public person, and Benedict is a really nice character. Like when you see all of those moments of Benedict like taking care of the family, being there for Eloise, and also regardless of how he dislikes all of those ambitious mama, he would be really nice and respond to his mother and her attempts to put him in society. I'm very, very keen to see what's gonna happen in the season. I still have for 2026 the rest of the siblings. I started a little bit when he was wicked, Francesca's story, and I feel like the show does not really reflect Francesca's as much, but I will see. I did not read Eloise. I'm very conflicted. I feel like she's the one who's trying to defy society, talking, but in reality she's not doing much from what lady at her place would do. We will see. I know from the epilogues that she runs away to marry the Sir Philip. Heist in every other book he was a character, like a mini Violet. And Gregory, I don't know what the book would look like. So bon visionnage. Enjoy watching Bridgerton season 4.